Not too far. There we go.
Well, then I know, but it's worse.
Ready? People live as though this world will last forever. Not one hint of Yahweh on their mind. Thinking we are on with our anticipation. Listening for the sound that scatters time. Here comes the King, and with a shout, the resurrection is reality. Oh, what a sight! Here comes immortality, and with a change. Oh, at last we see our destiny. Here comes the King. Here comes the King. Living in this world with close misunderstanding of the plan that Yahweh has in mind. Love has turned to hate for many friends and brothers. Hurry, trim your lamps, there's not much time. Here comes the King, and with a shout, the resurrection is reality. Oh, what a sight! Here comes immortality, and with the change, oh, at last we see our destiny. Here comes the King, here comes the King. Yahweh's Spirit calls, the bride must now be ready. Garments flowing, she is sparkling clean. He gives strength to rise out of the tribulation. Ears to hear their cry as he descends. Here comes the King, and with a shout, the resurrection is reality. Oh, what a sight! Here comes immortality, and with the change, oh, at last we see our destiny. Here comes the King. Here comes the King. Right. 59. Our minds in one accord, waiting for the Spirit to give understanding to His chosen few. Gathered in His name, knowing He is with us. Sure, He wants to lead us into all His truth. So glad to be in this family, set apart, chosen by Yahweh. So So glad to be in this family, among his new seeking his way. There's never any doubt, only one direction, pointing to forever for his chosen few. Down the chains of love, striving for perfection, in the highest calling, that's what we pursue. So glad to be in this family, set apart, chosen by Yahweh. So glad to be in this family, among his few seeking his way. We do not hope for pain, treasures do not hold us, comfort is no problem for his chosen few. Knowing what will come only makes us stronger, binding us together for what we're called to do. So glad to be in this family, set apart, chosen by Yahweh. So glad to be in this family, among his few seeking his way. Father Yahweh, thank you for allowing us to gather together on your Sabbath day. Thank you for everything you've done throughout the week. Thank you for your protection. Thank you for a roof over our head and food to eat. Father, we ask that you visit with us. Open our minds to understand your truth. Give us the strength to see and give us the strength to walk in your footsteps. Thank you, Father Yahweh, for our brother Yeshua. Thank you for all the things that he's done for us. We ask all of this and give thanks in Yeshua's name. Baruch haba b'shem Yahweh. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh.
Shabbat Shalom. It's a great day to be alive. Hallelujah. Announcements. I'll do the normal ones here. Prayer and praises, if you have those. We got a little cork board up here. Write them up there and pin them up there, and Deborah will capture those and send them out in an email. If you're not getting the email, see Deborah or one of the elders, and we'll make sure you get on there. Torah reading, if you'd like to read the Torah, we have our schedule up here. Just put your name up there before Caitlin gets up there. If you have if you have a cell phone, please silence them so that we can, not be disturbed during our services today. It's getting close to the spring feast, and I do have some handouts here. If you'd like some, just come see me and I'll get them passed out. Do you have them there? I think
these have been superseded.
Which ones have been superseded? These have been superseded?
This has sunset 22nd April, beginning of Passover service at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, I got some here too.
Okay, good. Yes.
So,
yes.
I got a message from Anthony from Mike Abaduska. He was going to bump the calendar back because the new moon sighting was iffy. But from what I understand, they sighted a new moon in Jerusalem.
They did.
I saw that.
This was interesting because this was a scientific experiment for me. That's why I don't know if some of you, I think I posted it on the Bible chat. I asked if anyone cites the moon, please let me know. And I did get some feedback, and it was cited in Jerusalem. The reason it was a scientific experiment for me is there's many out there because that moon percentage was 1% or less. And a lot of people say, well, if it's that low, you can't see it. Well, it was that low and we saw it. So that kind of kiboshed that. But anyway, that's another thing. But this calendar is based on that new moon sighting. So I'm going to briefly go over these, but like I said, I do have some handouts here if you'd like to take home so you can put it on your calendar. Just see me afterwards and I'll get them out to everybody. I do have one addition here. It's a tradition we've been doing for several years, and I talked to my wife and she was willing to do it. So the 21st of April at 1 p.m., we're going to have a matzah making party at my place. If you'd like to come, RSVP. So we know how many's coming, and yes.
Matzah or matzah crack?
I said matzah. If you want to do matzah crack, bring your own supplies, because I'm not planning on making matzah crack this year. I'm just planning on making matzah. But if you'd like to use my oven and stuff and things, we can do that. But you know, I was condemned last year for having a crack house. So
you might want to explain this. Matzah candy.
Yeah, matzah crack, as we call it, it's a matzah with chocolate and caramel and salt, and there may be some other things in there, but it is nummy. It's addictive, and
the other stuff is definitely not crack, right? Just so we're on the same page.
right. Yes, okay. Yes. Okay, so that's the 21st. Sunset the 22nd of April. We will have a Passover service at 7 p.m. and that'll be where we'll be doing the foot washing and wine and bread and such. The sunset the 23rd begins the first day of unleavened bread. We'll be meeting at 6 p.m. and we'll be having a meal that evening. And then the next day on the 24th of April at 1 p.m., we'll have the high day service for the first day of unleavened bread. Just for a mention, sunset the 27th of April will begin the day of first fruits. We don't have any meeting with that, but we will have a sermon on that Shabbat prior to that will address that.
And what date was that?
That's the 27th of April at sunset, but there's no meeting associated with that. And at sunset the 29th of April begins the last day of unleavened bread, which is a high Sabbath. There's no meeting that evening, but on the following day, the 30th of April at 1 p.m. will be our high day service for the last day of unleavened bread. So that's our schedule for the spring feasts. I've got one other topic, if you'll allow me today, some elders' business. I didn't ask to become an elder. In fact, if I had my choice, I would say no, thank you. But I am, and I accept that because that's part of our duties with Yahweh. And, you know, Joe here talks about being a Marine. And, you know, he can be a little abrasive sometimes. Well, even though I'm Air Force, I was a Chief Master Sergeant. And, you know, sometimes the chief comes out.
Race even for Air Force.
Yes. And there was something that occurred a few weeks ago that, you know, I had good intentions in the way I handled it, but I could have done it better. Because usually when I let the chief out, because I've been working on this for a long time, usually I have a leash on him and kind of hold him back from going full bore. But a couple weeks ago, my emotions got over me and I let Chief out unrestrained, and I could have done much better. But with that said, you know, we are a family here, and you know, Yahweh is so interesting here. the way he puts things out here. We just sung this song about, being part of a family and set apart by Yahweh. Take that to heart. And I would encourage you to examine why you're here. We are supposed to come here to hear the Torah read every Shabbat. And when we read or listen to the Torah, hopefully you're taking those words into your heart and applying them in your life. And that's why we're here. And just consider that as you go forward here. And, because like Joe said during Shabbat school, we know that you guys are watching the elders, but the elders are also watching you. So, and we need to be a family and we need to be together. And part of that is, when we screw up, we, admit that we screwed up and try to do better. And so that's what we need to do, all of us, because none of us are perfect. At least I haven't found anyone other than Yeshua. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about here. Caitlin, you reading today?
Yep.
All right.
Basically, you're not going to give us the John Wayne imitation and say, well, I talked over him, but can y'all walk the walk?
Haven't you heckled enough already?
That's a good one.
You know who John Wayne is?
I'm sorry, I'm a little too young for some of these references. Let me look them up later.
Oh my.
Pick on her. She's a baby. I can't see your dad not watching John Wayne. I know,
He
but that's
probably
her thing.
did.
She's a baby, so
You ought to see
anything
the
before.
You ought to see the poor young lady on the pre-show when we're doing the show, and we keep showing her all these old commercials that she's never seen before.
Oh.
Whoever that is, I feel so sorry for her. Bless her little heart. Okay. Is that out of our systems now? We good?
I doubt it.
Don't know
It's still early.
what you're talking about.
Great. Just normal Shabbat, right? All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let's see. Find the date, 13th. We are starting in Leviticus 12:1 through 13:59. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, If a woman conceives seed and bears a man-child, then she shall be unclean 7 days. As in the days of the impurity of her sickness shall she be unclean. And in the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. And she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 33 days. She shall touch no hallowed thing, nor come into the sanctuary, until the days of her purifying are fulfilled. But if she bears a maid child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in her impurity. And she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled, for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb a year old for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering, to the door of the tent of meeting to the priest. And he shall offer it before Yahweh, and make atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the fountain of her blood. This is the law for her that bears, whether a male or a female. And if she cannot afford a lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons, the one for a burnt offering, and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her, and she shall be clean. And Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, or a scab, or a bright spot, and it becomes in the skin of his flesh the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons the priests. And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin of the flesh. And if the hair of the plague has turned white, and the appearance of the plague is deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is the plague of leprosy. And the priest shall look on him and pronounce him unclean. And if the bright spot is white in the skin of his flesh, and the appearance of it is not deeper than the skin, and the hair of it is not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that has the plague 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if in his eyes the plague is unchanged, and the plague is not spread in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day. And behold, if the plague is dim, and the plague is not spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is a scab. And he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spreads in the skin, after he has shown himself to the priest for his cleansing, he shall show himself to the priest again. And the priest shall look, and behold, if the scab is spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought to the priest. And the priest shall look, and behold, if there is a white rising in the skin, and it has turned the hair white, and there is raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh. And the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if the leprosy breaks out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy covers all the skin of him that has the plague, from his head even to his feet, as far as appears to the priest, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the leprosy has covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that has the plague. It is all turned white. He is clean. But whenever raw flesh appears in him, he shall be unclean. And the priest shall look on the raw flesh and pronounce him unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. It is leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turns again and is changed to white, then he shall come to the priest. And the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the plague has turned to white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that has the plague. He is clean. And when the flesh has in the skin of it a boil, and it is healed, and in the place of the boil there is a white rising, or a bright spot, reddish white, then it shall be showed to the priest, and the priest shall look. And behold, if the appearance of it is lower than the skin, and the hair of it has turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. It has broken out in the boil. But if the priest looks on it, and behold, there are no white hairs in it, and it is not lower than the skin, but is dim, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it spreads abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spot stays in its place, and is not spread, it is the scar of the boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or when the flesh has in the skin of it a burning by fire, and the raw flesh of the burning becomes a bright spot, reddish white or white, then the priest shall look upon it. And behold, if the hair in the bright spot has turned white, and the appearance of it is deeper than the skin, it is leprosy. It has broken out in the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest looks on it, and behold, there is no white hair in the bright spot, and it is no lower than the skin, but is dim, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day. If it spreads abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stays in its place, and is not spread in the skin, but is dim, it is the rising of the burning. And the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is the scar of the burning. And when a man or woman has a plague on the head or on the beard, then the priest shall look on the plague. And behold, if the appearance of it is deeper than the skin, and there is in it yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a scab. It is leprosy of the head or of the beard. And if the priest looks on the plague of the scab, and behold, the appearance of it is not deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him that has the plague of the scab 7 days. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the scab has not spread, and there is in it no yellow hair, and the appearance of the scab is not deeper than the skin, then he shall be shaved. But the scab he shall not shave, and the priest shall shut up him that has the scale 7 days more. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the scab, and behold, if the scab has not spread in the skin, and the appearance of it is not deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. He shall wash his clothes, and be clean. But if the scab spreads abroad in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scab has spread in the skin, the priest shall not look for the yellow hair. He is unclean. But if in his eyes the scab is unchanged, and black hair is grown up in it, the scab is healed. He is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. And when a man or a woman has in the skin of the flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh are of a dull white, it is a rash. It has broken out in the skin. He is clean. And if a man's hair has fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. And if his hair has fallen off from the front part of his head, he is forehead bald, yet he is clean. But if there is in the bald head or the bald forehead a reddish white plague, it is leprosy breaking out in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look upon him, and behold, if the rising on the plague is reddish white in his bald head or in his bald forehead, as the appearance of leprosy in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man. He is unclean. The priest shall surely pronounce him unclean. His plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and the hair of his head shall go loose, and he shall cover his upper lip, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean. All the days in which the plague is in him, he shall be unclean. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Outside the camp shall his dwelling be. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it is a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it is in woven or knitted stuff, of linen or of woolen, whether in a skin or in anything made of skin, if the plague is greenish or reddish in the garment, or in the skin, or in the woven or knitted stuff, or in anything of skin, it is the plague of leprosy, and shall be showed to the priest. And the priest shall look on the plague, and shut up that which has the plague 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. If the plague has spread in the garment, either in the woven or knitted stuff, or in the skin, whatever service skin is used for, the plague is a fretting leprosy, it is unclean. And he shall burn the garment, whether the woven or knitted stuff, in woolen or in linen, or in anything of skin in which the plague is, for it is a fretting leprosy, it shall be burnt in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague has not spread in the garment, either in the woven or knitted stuff, or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing in which the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look after the plague is washed, and behold, if the plague has not changed its color, and the plague has not spread, it is unclean. Ye shall burn it in the fire. It is a fret, whether the bareness be inside or outside. And if the priest looks, and behold, the plague is dim after the washing of it, then he shall tear it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the woven or knitted stuff. And if it appears still in the garment, either in the woven or knitted stuff, or in anything of skin, it is breaking out. You shall burn that in which the plague is with fire. And the garment, either the woven or knitted stuff, or whatever thing of skin it is, which you shall wash, if the plague has departed from them, then it shall shall be washed the second time and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in a garment of woolen or linen, either in the woven or knitted stuff, or anything of skin, to pronounce it clean, or to pronounce it unclean. Let's see. Next, we are in 2 Kings 4:42 through 19. Excuse me, 4:42 through 5:19. And a man came from Baal Shalisha and brought the man of Elohim bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and fresh ears of grain in his sack. And he said, Give to the people that they may eat. And his servants said, What? Should I set this before 100 men? But he said, Give the people that they may eat. For thus says Yahweh, They shall eat, and shall leave of it. So he set it before them, and they ate and left of it, according to the word of Yahweh. Now Naaman, the captain of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him Yahweh had given victory to Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out in bands, and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maiden, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said to her mistress, If only my master were with the prophet that is in Samaria, then he would cure him of his leprosy. And one went in and told his master, saying, In this manner and thus said the maiden that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver, and 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of raiment. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, And now when this letter has come to you, behold, I have sent Naaman my servant to you, that you may cure him of his leprosy. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes, and said, Am I Elohim, to kill and to make alive, that this man sends to me to cure a man of his leprosy? But consider, I pray you, and see how he seeks a quarrel against me. And it was so, when Elisha the man of Elohim heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Why have you rent your clothes? Let him now come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariots, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall come again to you, and you shall be clean. But Naaman was angry, and went away, and said, Behold, I thought, he will surely come out to me, and stand, and call on the name of Yahweh his Elohim, and wave his hand over the place, and cure the leper. Are not Abana and Phaphar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. And his servants came near and spoke to him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much rather then, when he says to you, Wash and be clean? Then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of Elohim. And his flesh came again like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. And he returned to the man of Elohim, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold now, I know that there is no Elohim in all the earth, but in Israel. Now therefore, I pray you, take a present of your servant. But he said, As Yahweh lives, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. And Naaman said, If not yet, I pray you, let there be given to your servant 2 mules burden of earth. For your servant will from now on offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice to other Elohim, but to Yahweh. In this thing may Yahweh pardon your servant. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leans on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, may Yahweh pardon your servant in this thing. And he said to him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. See, and last we have Luke 7:18 through 35. And the disciples of John told him of all these things. And John, calling to him two of his disciples, sent them to Joshua, saying, Are you he that comes, or look we for another? And when the men were come to him, they said, John the Baptist has sent us to you, saying, Are you he that comes, or look we for another? In that hour he cured many of diseases and plagues and evil spirits, and on many that were blind he bestowed sight. And he answered and said to them, Go and tell John the things which you have seen and heard. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, the dead are raised up. The poor have good tidings preached to them, and blessed is he whoever shall find no occasion of stumbling in me. And when the messengers of John were departed, he began to say to the multitudes concerning John, What went you out in the wilderness to behold? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went you out to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they are all gorgeously apparelled, and live delicately, are in king's courts. But what went you out to see? A prophet? Yes, I say to you, and much more than a prophet. This is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before your face, who shall prepare your way before you. I say to you, among them that are born of women, there is no one greater than John. Yet he that is but little in the kingdom of Yahweh is greater than he. And all the people, when they heard, and the publicans justified Yahweh, being baptized with the baptism of John. But the Pharisees and the lawyers rejected for themselves the counsel of Yahweh, being not baptized of him. To what then shall I liken the men of this generation, and what are they like? They are like children that sit in the marketplace, and call one to another, who say, We piped for you, and you did not dance. We wailed, and you did not weep. For John the Baptist is come eating no bread nor drinking wine, and you say he has a demon. The Son of Man is come eating and drinking, and you say, Behold, a gluttonous man and a wine-bibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. And wisdom is justified of all her children. Let's see.
Almost got it to everybody. Marvelous grace of our loving Lord, grace that exceeds cleanse our guilt. Yonder on Calvary's Mount outpoured, there's where the blood of the Lamb was spilled. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that will pardon and cleanse within. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that is greater than all our sin. Sin and despair like the sea waves cold, threaten the soul with infinite love. Grace that is greater, yes, great untold. Point to the refuge of mighty cross. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that will pardon and cleanse within. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that is greater than all our sin. Dark is the stain where we cannot hide, nor can avail to wash it away. Look, there is following our crimson tide, whiter than snow may be today. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that will pardon and cleanse within. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that is greater than all our sin. Marvelous, infinite, precious grace, freely bestowed on all who believe. You who are longing to see His face, will in this moment His grace receive. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that will pardon and cleanse within. Grace, grace, yon grace, grace that is greater than all our sin.
All right. She working? Okay. We're rapidly approaching our Passover season. Let's turn to Romans chapter 7, starting in verse 1. Know you not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law has dominion over a man as long as he lives. For the woman which has a husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he lives. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then if, while her husband lives, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, you also are become dead to the law by the body of Messiah, that you should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto Yahweh. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sin, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Yahweh forbid. No, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. But sin, taken occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence, since, for without the law, sin was dead. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived, and I died. And the commandment which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death. For sin, taken occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good. Was then that which is good made death unto me? Yahweh forbid. But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might become exceedingly sinful. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For that which I do, I allow not. For that which I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that I do. If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto that law that it is good. Now then, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me. For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, dwells no good thing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good, I find not. For the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do. Now, if I do that I would not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me. I find then a law that when I would do good, evil is present with me. For I delight in the law of Yahweh after the inward man. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I thank Yahweh through Yeshua Messiah our Lord. So then with the mind I myself serve the law of Yahweh, but with the flesh the law of sin. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Messiah Yeshua, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Messiah Yeshua has made me free from the law of sin and death. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, Yahweh sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against Yahweh, for it is not subject to the law of Yahweh, neither indeed can be. So then, they that are in the flesh cannot please Yahweh. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if so be that the Spirit of Yahweh dwell in you. Now if any man have not the Spirit of Messiah, he is none of his. And if the Messiah be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the Spirit is life because of righteousness. But if the Spirit of him that raised up Yeshua from the dead is dwelling in you, he that raised up Messiah from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his Spirit that dwells in you. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh to live after the flesh. For if we live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of Yahweh, they are the sons of Yahweh. For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you have received the Spirit of adoption, whereby we call, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we are the children of Yahweh. Now let's ponder these scriptures in John chapter 18, verse 1. When Yeshua had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook Cedron, where was a garden into which he entered, and his disciples, and Judas also betrayed him, knew the place. For Yeshua oftentimes resorted there with his disciples. Judas then, having received a band of men and officers of the chief priests and Pharisees, not the Romans, he came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Yeshua, therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto them, Whom seek you? They answered him, Yeshua of Nazareth. Yeshua said unto them, I am he. And Judas also which betrayed him, stood with them. And as soon as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backwards and fell to the ground. Then asked he of them, Whom seek you? And they said, Yeshua of Nazareth. And Yeshua answered, I have told you that I am he. If therefore you seek me, let these go their way, that the saying might be fulfilled which he spoke, of them which thou gavest me have I lost none. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it, and smote the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Then said Yeshua unto Peter, Put up thy sword into the sheath. The cup which my Father has given me, shall I not drink it? Then the band and the captain and officers of the Jews took Yeshua and bound him, and led him away to Annas first, and then for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, which was the high priest that same year. Now Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews that was expedient that one man should die for the people. Simon Peter followed Yeshua, and so did another disciple. That disciple was known unto the high priest, and went in with Yeshua into the palace of the high priest. But Peter stood at the door without. Then went out that other disciple, which was known unto the high priest, and spoke unto her that kept the door, and brought in Peter. Then says the damsel that kept the door unto Peter, Art not thou also one of this man's disciples? And he says, I am not. And the servant and officer stood there, who had made a fire of coals, for it was cold. And they warmed themselves. And Peter stood with them and warmed himself. The high priest then asked Yeshua of his disciples and of his doctrine. Yeshua answered him, I spoke openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, whether the Jews always resort, and in secret have I said nothing. Why askest thou me? Ask them which heard me. What I have said unto them, behold, they know what I said. And when he had thus spoken, one of the officers which stood by struck Yeshua with the palm of his hand, saying, Answered thou the high priest so? Yeshua answered him, If I have spoken evil, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why smitest thou me? Now Annas had sent him bound unto Caiaphas, the high priest. And Simon Peter stood and warmed himself. They said therefore unto him, Art not thou one of his disciples? And he denied it and said, I am not. One of the servants of the high priest, being his kinsman, whose ear Peter cut off, says, Did I not see thee in the garden with him? Peter then denied again, and immediately the cock crew. Then led they Yeshua from Caiaphas unto the hall of judgment. And it was early, and they themselves went not into the judgment hall, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. Pilate then went out unto them and said, What accusations bring you against this man? They answered and said unto him, If he were not a malefactor, evildoer, we would not have delivered him up unto thee. Then said Pilate unto them, Take you him, and judge him according to your law. The Jews therefore said unto him, It is not lawful for us to put any man to death, that the saying Yeshua might be fulfilled, which he spoke, signifying what death he should die. Then Pilate entered into the judgment hall again, and called Yeshua, and said unto him, Art thou the king of the Jews? And Yeshua answered him, Sayest thou this thing of thyself, or did others tell thee of me? Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Thine own nation and thy chief priests have delivered thee unto me. What hast thou done? Yeshua answered, My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. Pilate therefore said unto him, Art thou a king then? Yeshua answered, Thou sayest that I am a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I unto the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth hears my voice. Pilate said unto him, What is truth? And when he had said this, he went out again. Unto the Jews, and said unto them, I find in him no fault at all. But you have a custom that I should release unto you one of the at the Passover. Will you therefore that I release unto you the King of the Jews? Then cried they all again, saying, Not this man, but Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. Then Pilate therefore took Yeshua and scourged him. And the soldiers patted a crown of thorns and put it on his head. And they put on him a purple robe and said, Hail, King of the Jews! And they smote him with their hands. Pilate therefore went forth again and said unto them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him. Then came Yeshua forth, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate said unto them, Behold the man. When the chief priests, therefore, and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate said unto them, Take you him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the son of Elohim. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid, and went again into the judgment hall, and said unto Yeshua, Whence art thou? But Yeshua gave him no answer. Then said Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have the power to crucify thee, and the power to release thee? Yeshua answered, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Therefore he that delivered me unto thee has the greater sin. And from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him. But the Jews cried out, saying, If thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. Whosoever makes himself a king speaks against Caesar. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Yeshua forth, and sat down at the judgment seat in the place that is called the Pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha. And it was the preparation of the Passover, about the 6th hour. And he said unto the Jews, Behold your king. But they cried out again, Away with him, crucify him. Pilate said unto them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified. And they took Yeshua and led him away. And he, bearing his stake, went forth into a place called the place of the skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, where they crucified him, and 2 others with him, on either side one, and Yeshua in the midst. Now crucify is number 4717, staru, meaning to stake, drive down stakes, to fortify with driven stakes, to palisade, to crucify one, metaphor, to crucify the flesh, destroy its power utterly, the nature of the figure implying that the destruction is attended with intense pain. Years ago, when I was baptized in 88, I sat down and I wrote this. I share it all the time during this time period with the Passover. So back when I was new to the faith, I wrote this, and I always read it at this time of year. What I think of when I eat unleavened bread is the crunching of the thorns into the crown and forced onto Yeshua's head. What I think of when I eat unleavened bread is the slap at Yeshua's face while blindfolded. Tell us, prophet, who hit you? What I think of when I eat unleavened bread is the cracking of the whip against Yeshua's body, cutting his flesh open so you can count his bones. When I eat unleavened bread, I hear the sounds of the hammer pounding in the nails. When I eat unleavened bread, I see the soldiers. The spear was thrusted into his side. You know, it's a good thing. The curtain of time separates me from that event because of how horrible that Passover was. Because every time I take a bite of unleavened bread, I see me, because of my sins, slapping Yeshua's face and screaming, who hit you now, prophet? I see me every time I eat unleavened bread, making the crown of thorns. Every time I eat unleavened bread, I see me cracking the whip. Every time I eat unleavened bread, it was me who hammered the nails. Every time I eat unleavened bread, it was me who slammed the spear into Yeshua, all because of my sins. Yes, the curtain of time may be between me and that horrible Passover, but because of my sins, I was there just the same. So eating unleavened bread for 7 days is to remind you of what happened years ago. When I eat unleavened bread, what do I think of? I thank Yahweh for making it possible for my sins to be forgiven. When I eat unleavened bread, I thank Yahweh for Yeshua. So next time you eat unleavened bread, what will you be thinking of? Yahweh bless. Page 1.
Yahweh bless you and praise you for all that you've done today, all that you've taught us. We ask that you bury your message into our hearts and help us to turn it into deeds and actions for your kingdom in our daily lives. We ask that you would put your hand of protection both around this house and each and every member here. We also bless you and praise you for bringing forth our food from the ground and providing it for us. We ask that you bless it in return to the nourishment of our bodies and to further us into the service of your work. I ask this in Yeshua's name. Baruch haba Hashem Yahweh. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. So be it. I remembered that one.